Hello, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Thursday, October 14th, and very excited about today's episode. It's been a rather lackluster week for the alts, but that all started to change this morning, so we'll dive into that. May even have some potential doges of the day for you guys today. We're getting some really interesting price action here, so very excited about it. I think it could be a potentially interesting weekend, but we'll talk about all that and a lot more. But before we do, Dr. Eth, CJ, how you gentlemen doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, big guy. I'm delighted by this the march of the alts, and quite frankly, even though it's the backbone of a lot of the alts, Ethereum strong like bull. I mean, market cap 444 billion. This thing's moving up, and 3,779 right now on my screens, guys. That's 10% in the last 24 hours. Pretty nice move. Feeling good, Monty.
Yeah, I'm feeling good too, John. And, we talked about it a little bit yesterday on the show, but ETH in many ways is sort of the gateway to the alts. And I think what we're seeing today could be a precursor for even more bullish price action for the alts. But I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I also want to talk about some Bitcoin dominance. CJ, I know you have been referencing that this week. Also, the ETH Bitcoin pair. Lots of interesting charts to look at. So, what do you guys say we dive right in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Luna is one of those that was actually on a TD sequential buy 9 based on its actual Bitcoin pairing. So, yeah, and that's a common theme with some of the alts that we're actually starting to see. So, first, I want to begin with Bitcoin, though, because not only do we have technicals to discuss, but we also have some on-chain metrics that we'd like to update you with. But, overall, still seeing convergence with the oscillators and the momentum. Not seeing any divergence just yet. And even if we do see divergence begin, it typically takes a little while for price to actually correct from it, as you can see from our recent price action, all the way from August through September. So a little bit of resistance above here. I'm sure if you guys have noticed how Bitcoin has kind of struggled to get above 58 and 59K strongly. That's kind of the last true resistance level until all-time highs. We can see that not only backed up by volume at price, but also on-chain volume at price as well. Something that I want to share with you guys as well that we talked a little bit about the conference, something that we talked a little bit about at the conference was a supply shock indicator, namely the supply shock ratios and how they have affected Bitcoin throughout time. And, when we get to a very bullish macro view like this, it typically leads to some very interesting increases. But overall, the methodology for this metric is that when the long-term holders lock up a large enough portion of supply, there is a supply squeeze effect on the market. And so we've seen that historically, but I just think it's interesting that we're actually reaching a higher level than we've ever seen before on this particular supply shock indicator. So somewhat noteworthy there. Also, adjusted SOPR. We had really this period of time of accumulation when we fell below the 1 midpoint. That's really what this indicator is really based on. Typically, when we go below that level, historically, it's been a good time to accumulate Bitcoin. But now what we're seeing is a rebound from those oversold levels, and we're starting to actually see convergence in the trend. We're seeing an increase in individuals making profit, and it looks very similar to what we experienced at the start of November 2020 prior to, a very interesting uptrend that we started in Bitcoin. Also, in terms of news, SEC potentially approving a Bitcoin ETF. We've actually seen a lot of speculation or a massive increase in open interest when it has to do with Bitcoin futures. I really like this chart. I think it breaks down a nice perspective of how these things are increasing. But you can see we're starting to flip bullish for one of the first times. So I think that, we're starting to see a lot of speculation from an institutional perspective, potentially based on, the possibility of a Bitcoin ETF getting actually approved this fall. So there's some other things I could get into as well, but I want to first pass it off to you, gentlemen.
I wanted to rant just for a sec about how misunderstood cryptocurrencies still are, guys. I am just, I should say frustrated probably, but pissed off that even President Biden is out there once again saying things like, all this nefarious activity done on cryptocurrencies. Meaning, of course, that when somebody holds somebody up for ransomware, when a bad player decides that they're going to hack into the Colonial Pipeline or elsewhere and demand payment to stop whatever they've done, some people have asked for cryptocurrency. I would point out yet again that it's 1,000 to 1 cash versus cryptocurrency because of the idea that the cryptocurrency is so easily followed. Now, you don't know who has it, but you know what wallet opened up and what wallet it came out of and went to and so forth. It's just frustrating that, world leaders, except for Mr. Putin, apparently, because I don't know if you guys saw this one, but President Vladimir Putin says, you know what? Cryptocurrencies are being vilified and they shouldn't be. And some people say they're being used for money laundering and criminal activity. And he says cryptocurrency, quote, has the right to exist and can be used as a means of payment. He did this in an interview with CNBC. And then he posted it on the Kremlin's website. So, if people are going to be paying Putin, Russia, for oil and natural gas and so forth, that they're making literally trillions of dollars on now that they've tripled and quadrupled the cost of this, which we knew was coming, guys. I mean, again, this is like the horrible exit from Afghanistan. We knew that if Russia ran a pipeline, which Merkel supported, and if they ran it across Europe, that the very next thing they'd do is, okay, we'll give you guys your natural gas that you need. And by the way, it's going to cost you a lot more now. But anyway, back to crypto. It turns out Putin's all for crypto. And some people out there say, well, see, that's proof that it's being used for nefarious purposes. That's not proof at all of that. In other words, he's saying it's a good payment method. And many of us would not want to pay in Bitcoin, but there are a host of other cryptocurrencies that might be better for payments and so forth. But nonetheless, I'm just sort of surprised that the president, once again, was out there saying, maybe I have to use some sort of a executive order or something to stop people from using crypto. What they're afraid of, guys, is people can move their money more freely with crypto across borders. And that's what they're more concerned about. It's not about the nefarious uses of it. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox and throw it back to you guys.
Well, I have a rant to go on now as well.
Okay.
But it'll be shorter.
Okay.
And this
Probably
one has
smarter.
to do with this one has to do with Bank of England and them officially warning that crypto could cause a 2008 level meltdown, which I think is completely misunderstood. The main point from the speech is that from 5 years ago, the crypto industry was 16 billion. Now it's 2.3 trillion. And he's comparing that to the $1.2 trillion subprime mortgage crisis in 2008. The reason why crypto has increased so quickly in such a short period of time in terms of overall market cap is because there's real innovation occurring and there's real wealth that's being created, unlike some of the things and some of the speculative activities back in 2008. But it's just, I think it's a very broad misunderstanding or purposely deliberate, smashing of crypto. But overall, I think it's good for us because it still says, there are skeptics, there are potential buyers left in the future that are currently bears.
Yeah, CJ, I thought it was funny when that email was shared with us this morning, your response was just 2 words: buy signal. And yeah, I agree. It's just a misunderstanding, and yeah.
Well, I can understand how retail could fall for something like that because they see Dogecoin and Shiba Inu and stuff like that increasing at rapid rates, and people can't justify those valuations. So they think it has to be some type of scam like 2008. But, those trades and punts and hot potatoes, they are distractions from the real problem that Bitcoin is solving in the world, which was creating a form of digital scarcity that is completely transparent and verifiable. So I'll get off my soapbox.
No, thank you for that. Two quality rants here today in the Daily Crypto Byte. Love to see it. I wanted to just quickly share some information on ETH. I think it's fitting given the theme of today's show with Doc changing his name to Doc ETH. And one thing I want to start out with is Bitcoin dominance. We talk about Bitcoin dominance all the time as sort of a index for the altcoins. And right now, I think it's painting a strong picture for some bullish price action for the alts. So let's take a look at what we're seeing here. We topped 2 days ago, excuse me, on this TD sequential sell 9. CJ mentioned this, and this 46% level has historically been a very critical level for Bitcoin dominance. Obviously, Bitcoin has been performing very well. And what's been most surprising about the last couple of weeks of price action, I guess just the last week and a half of price action, has been Bitcoin's overperformance relative to the rest of the market. Very often we'll trade around moving average strategies that basically just tell whether or not an asset's oversold relative to Bitcoin or overbought relative to Bitcoin. Well, this week, it seems like more or less everything is oversold relative to Bitcoin. And that has to do with what CJ was talking about and who is participating in this market, right? It's the long-term holders, big players and institutions that are driving Bitcoin. They're not necessarily known for participation in the alts, but now that they've driven Bitcoin back up significantly, it seems like we're getting some confidence back in the market and people are willing to speculate onto some downstream alts. And like we talked about yesterday, one of the first benefactors of that is typically Ethereum. And one chart I had referenced earlier in the week was the Ethereum futures funding rate. And as you can see, what I was most encouraged by is when we got this dip, we got this nice increase in long-term speculation, and that's holding up still as we continue to climb in price. I think a lot of that has to do with the strength that Bitcoin has shown and the confidence that that is brought back to the altcoin market. Now, going back to Bitcoin dominance real quick and just kind of looking at where this could potentially go and what that would look like for the crypto market, the next critical level we have is right here at about 43% Bitcoin dominance. If we break through that level, we don't really have another critical level until all the way down here at about 42%. A move from here from 44% to 42% in terms of Bitcoin dominance would look something like, there's a couple scenarios, but what we're seeing now is likely a rejection from that critical level that CJ was talking about at 59K. Also, members of our community were talking about this as well. Last night, I was talking to Josh Nardi in our chat, and he was talking about this sort of upward trending channel that's emerging and how Bitcoin is going to have some serious momentum to break above this upper side of the channel. And one thing that I mentioned to him, and I completely agree with him, is that, if Bitcoin does not break out of this channel, perhaps we see a pullback towards this moving average, perhaps a retest of this bottom level of this channel like we saw just a few weeks ago here. And that would, I think, not only contribute to this Bitcoin dominance move back down to here, but I think it would bode well for, the rest of the market with assets like ETH, because we're now seeing some solid on-chain metrics behind the scene. And, given the fact that Bitcoin is looking like it's set to pull back from this resistance level, I think that, I said a potential rejection from that top of that channel and a subsequent retest of the bottom half could potentially be good for the alts as capital rotates out of Bitcoin and back downstream. And I think we are starting to see the beginning of that today. That's indicative here from the Bitcoin chart, as well as what we're seeing on the Bitcoin dominance chart. So I think that we could start to see some promising action in the alts here. And I, for one, am pretty excited about that. So yeah, that's all I got for ETH. I'll pass it back to you guys now.
I got one more quick thing that's not a rant, but it's one more reason that all of you are smart to be tuned in and tuned into cryptocurrencies. Coinbase is going to let users deposit paychecks directly into online accounts. So that's what Coinbase says. Now, Coinbase and Robinhood have come out and said things that the banking, whether it's Treasury or the Office of the Controller of the Currency, have come out and basically told them to walk that back or go slow. But nonetheless, the fact that they're saying that they're going to let users of Coinbase deposit their checks directly into online accounts, that's a rather big thing. And if indeed that does come to pass, 68 million users, that's a pretty decent expansion in demand, the way I look at it, guys. So obviously, right now, those 68 million users could transfer their cash in from their bank account. We all know that. But the fact that they might be able to take some or all of their paycheck and put it into something that yields a much higher return, because we talk about that all the time here. Why would you leave your money in the bank if Coinbase is, it's not exactly a couple $100,000 business. Coinbase is a multi-billion-dollar business, and people at Coinbase and Voyager and other crypto brokers will basically let you deposit your crypto and will pay you up to double-digit returns. You've heard Monty say Polkadot right now on Voyager Digital is a 12% yield, or Tether. I mean, you can deposit and get returns on many of these altcoins, as well as, of course, on Bitcoin and Ethereum, just for having your cash there. And if you're not doing it, to some extent, you're having your pocket picked by the bank. There's a reason JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and Bank America have been slow to adopt crypto. And one of those businesses, one of the reasons is that their business is paying you very little and charging you or others that are borrowing your money an awful lot. And you take that away from them, as 68 million users over at Coinbase might do. And that's an interesting new twist to this that I think we need to pay attention to.
Banks could pay you 5%, interest, but they don't. That's why Voyager and I think a lot of these cryptocurrency, quasi banks, places where you can really hold and earn that interest, I think are going to take a ton of millennial customers away from the traditional banking and financial system. There's just not enough incentive to keep those individuals as, valid customers. But Doges of the day, any of you guys, or any alts you want to highlight?
Yeah, I have a quick one. I can lead us off with. So yeah, I mean, we've talked already a lot about DOT today. DOT has been one of the best performers over the last 24 hours, and I think that is like almost a microcosm of what we were talking about with ETH. And DOT is one of those blue chip, bigger altcoins. I think it's starting to see speculation before some of the more downstream alts. So because of that, I'm looking a little bit more downstream. I'm looking at comparable assets that maybe haven't seen as much of a price pop as what we've seen from DOT. And one of those that I think looks pretty good right now is Chainlink. And it's already performing well to start the day. Really nice pop in price here. But this level right here that I have marked at about 27.5 is a critical level for Link. And I'm looking to buy a breakout above this level. As you can see, just a couple weeks ago when we started to show some strength, we hit some resistance here and then consolidated while Bitcoin rallied. Well, now that Bitcoin's kind of pulling back, I think that this period right here of like consolidation is unlikely given the fact that Bitcoin isn't seeing the speculation. It's starting to turn down into the alts. So I think that now that we're kind of reapproaching this critical level with a different market environment, I think it bodes well for Link here, especially when you consider what we saw with DOT over the last 24 hours. So I'm waiting for a break above this level. If we get a nice clean break here, I will be looking to enter a long trade with perhaps the intention of riding it up to this previous swing high at about 31, or even the previous high here at about 36. So that's my Doge of the day. today, Chainlink?
I am just holding and rooting for these higher prices in Solana right now, guys. Talked about it when it was it 143 or 144? I don't remember exactly. Today it's 154. I think we are pushing back towards those 160. I mean, would I lighten up a little? Let me take a look at this. 168 we hit on the 8th. And then we bled all the way off, as I said, down to a low, which I did not buy, but down to a low of about 140, 139-ish. That was on the 12th, just 2 days ago. And now, as long as you were, Johnny on the spot or Jane on the spot, you've got a nice trade already up here at 154. I'm still targeting 160 and then 165-ish as, where I want to take some profits. So am I taking profits yet at 154? No, I'm not. Throw it back to you.
Thank you for that, Doc. Yeah, I'll be watching Solana closely. I know a lot of buzz around it on social media. We've been seeing the sentiment climb over the last 24 hours as well, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. But how about you, CJ? Anything to close us off with here today?
Yeah, and I want to highlight kind of a general condition that we're seeing in a lot of the alts, and that has to do with the bullish inverse head and shoulders pattern. So sharing the general trend or construction of what this looks like. Obviously, you have the first shoulder, the head, second shoulder, and then the key breakout level that signals an entry in my mind is a break above this neckline. And this had been something we had talked about in ETH. There you can see it. It looks a little bit more clear on the candlestick chart. But if we go over to Ethereum, that pattern looks very similar to the textbook example. And late last night, we actually did get, what I would refer to as kind of confirmation with a breakout above that neckline. I think that this ultimately bodes well for Ethereum to continue to a new all-time high in the next coming weeks. I think there's increasing likelihood now that we have this technical formation that we will actually see that. So Ethereum is not the only one that's showing this bullish head and shoulders pattern in terms of the altcoins. So I would be looking for a lot of patterns like this. There are also some high cap alts like Luna and like Solana that are bouncing from critical oversold levels that I think are also pretty interesting when looking at. But overall, this is what I've been looking for in the altcoin market. And, I'm starting to become more interested in laddering in fully to some more of these assets. But overall, I think in terms of risk potential, because of the increasing futures and options open interest, we might get a little bit more leverage in the market, which could potentially put the bulls at risk of one last little shakeout to potentially 50K. We have very strong support at 50K though. But, if we see a shakeout like that before a larger bullish continuation, the alts might get hit a little bit. But other than that, I'm very bullish. I'm still holding spots, and I haven't taken any profit, although that could be a potential situation.
Thank you very much, CJ. Yeah, it's looking like we're set up here for an interesting close to the week. So as always, if you guys would like to come hang out with CJ, myself, and the rest of the crypto traders over at Market Rebellion, you can try it out for just $7 for your first week at marketrebellion.com/try crypto. Like I said, we got a 24/7 chat with a community of traders from all around the world that share their insights. Really great stuff. CJ and I learn from them all the time, and we share our insights in there as well. We also have an extensive education curriculum and a whole lot more. So head over there and check that out. And also, if you're looking for a place to trade your assets, like we were talking about today, if you're looking to get out of that bank, stop getting 0.5% interest, head over to investvoyager.com, where you can get 60 plus digital assets commission free and earn up to 12% interest. That's right, 12% on assets like DOT, 10% on assets like USDC. So definitely head over there and check them out. And if you do, use code REBEL25 for $25 when you sign up. But that's all I got. CJ?
Yeah, just want to say congrats to Voyager. The long-awaited European expansion is now here after news of yesterday. So Voyager is now able to sell cryptocurrency or provide their service to French citizens as well as other countries in the European Union. So really great stuff coming out of Voyager. Also, if you hold that VGX token, they will also give you a 1% interest boost. So that takes your 10% interest that you're getting on USDC to 11%. So I hold that. I like it. But yeah, just want to say congrats to all the hard work that our friends at Voyager have really put in. So that's all I got. I hope you all have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world.
Take care.
Bang.